America has now come out in support of a Gaza ceasefire resolution. Now, with the US and EU joining calls for truce, pressure is building on Israel to rethink its Gaza strategy, especially Rafah plans. What happens next now? Our next report tells you more.
US Secretary of State Antony Blinken is visiting Israel. America, in an unprecedented move, is set to back a Gaza ceasefire resolution in the United Nations Security Council. The resolution text is calling for an immediate and sustained ceasefire to protect civilians and allow aid delivery to the enclave. Washington has traditionally shielded its longtime ally Israel at the UN. Earlier in the war, the US was averse to the word ceasefire. It vetoed measures that included calls for an immediate truce. But in recent weeks, the US has incrementally ramped up pressure on Israel. And the UN Security Council resolution marks a further toughening. This is Blinken's sixth round of shuttle diplomacy in the region since the war broke out, and the Israeli War Cabinet as part of the US diplomatic push for a ceasefire in Gaza. Washington also seeks to deter the IDF's ground offensive into Rafah. In between these developments, a new lease of life has been put into the Gaza truce talks. Negotiations have resumed in Qatar. The CIA, Mossad, and Qatari spy chiefs are working around a 6-week truce and the release of 40 hostages in return for jailed Palestinians. Hamas officials say they've been flexible in the talks, but the Israeli response to their proposal has been negative.
We were adhering to the fact that the negotiations were taking place to end the aggression, which means stop the operations, stop flying jets, and a full withdrawal, as well as resolving the impact of the aggression with the return of the displaced, providing relief, reconstruction, and lifting the siege. And then we would talk about the prisoners.
Blinken was in Cairo on Thursday, where he discussed the Gaza war and crucial aid delivery with Egyptian officials. Once again, the US is hopeful of a deal, but it is also treading cautiously.
It's getting closer. I think the gaps are narrowing, and I think an agreement is very much possible. We worked very hard with Qatar, with Egypt, and with Israel to put a strong proposal on the table. We did that. Hamas wouldn't accept it. They came back with other requests, other demands. The negotiators are working on that right now. But I believe it's very much doable, and it's very much necessary.
Alongside the talks, Israel is ramping up its attacks on Gaza. This week, the IDF raided Gaza's biggest hospital, the Al-Shifa.
Many Hamas terrorist operatives and senior ones have been hiding in the hospital, and also Islamic Jihad group has been hiding in this hospital. When we entered the hospital, we were finding terrorists fighting against us here in this area.
The IDF claims to have killed over 140 terrorists in its Al-Shifa operation. The fighting is ongoing. Nearly 600 people have been arrested. 2 Israeli soldiers were also killed in the raid. Hamas condemned what it called Israel's bloody massacre at Al-Shifa. It said civilians, patients, and displaced people were among the casualties. And for the people still alive and sheltering in the medical premises, it was time to run for their lives once again.
They besieged us. We were there for 3 days, without water, without food, without drinks. We have triplets. We cannot find them water to drink. The milk.
Pressure is mounting on Israel to not launch its planned ground offensive in Gaza. The US has said any action in Rafah would be a mistake, and one that it would not support.